Marie and I had a spectacular cruise to the Viking heartlands after arriving in Bergen, Norway, a day late. Our first stop was at Eidfjord, Norway, on the third day. There were several great views of the town and the rugged countryside. A souvenir shop had goats grazing on its grass roof. The nature center we visited featured dioramas of reindeer and other local animals. And we checked out a marketplace and found a shaded area to relax in and enjoy the surroundings. Leaving Eidfjord was awesome with its spectacular scenery and little towns. Day 4 was in Stavanger, Norway, and had some great views of the town as we pulled in and the surroundings. They had many colorful buildings and stores. We walked around on a walking tour, took a few pictures, and the big attraction in that area is called their oil museum. And they had their original log cabin syrup oil that they found put it in an old bottle. And that was the first oil that was discovered in Norway. And we saw models of their oil rig and its huge anchor. And Marie got next to a huge drill head for a photo. On to Aalborg, Denmark, day 5. We were treated to a live Viking exhibit, and I got to cross swords with a battle axe. We passed Jens Bang's house, built in 1624, and parent swans with chicks. Then a dungeon at Hallberg Castle. We noted a group of modern condos, Symphony Hall, the home of Aalborg Symphony, and a colorful little trolley. Many power generation windmills were noted near Aalborg, as well as other Scandinavian countries. The 6th day was in Copenhagen, Denmark. The Little Mermaid sculpture looked the same as we had viewed her in 1960. Our walk took us past a nice fountain and several interesting sights, including a replica of the statue David. We moved on to Amalienborg Palace, the winter residence of the Queen of Denmark. The Queen had one of the longest tables I've ever seen, probably seating 40 or 50 guests. The palace walls were filled with gorgeous tapestries. There was one with the likenesses of the world's top luminaries of the 20th century. The palace chandeliers were an amazing sight. At Tivoli Gardens, we looked for the flea circus we had seen in 1960 when we visited, but the owner, flea trainer, had retired in the mid-70s. Standing today in its place was a travel agent office. Bummer. But we enjoyed looking for it anyhow and bringing back old memories from a different century. Marie got to pose by a pirate dummy before we left Tivoli Gardens. Day 7, we were tired from 2 tours the day before, so we skipped the lengthy train ride to Berlin, took a short tour of Rostock, Germany. Some sights were St. Mary's Church, University Square with its Fountain of Happiness, on the Rostock Building Town Hall, and the 13th century Rostock Symphony Cultural Center. Then we saw the University of Rostock before returning. Onward to day 8 in Gdansk, Poland, known as the city of glowing amber and Gothic cathedrals. The town was destroyed in 1945. The old town we saw had a Gothic cathedral and the National Museum. Marie and I enjoyed sitting on a fierce-looking lion. What we assumed it was asleep. We stopped for refreshments, some Polish beer. The old town area showed a mix of Renaissance, Gothic, and Baroque architecture. We were also treated to a demonstration of how to spot amber and the real amber from fake amber, and I couldn't pass up buying an amber ring. Then we left Gdansk. Next came our one day at sea with no tours, and it was a good rest day. We photographed a tapestry, the main swimming pool, the 2 of us in robes before heading for the hot tub, both of us on deck, and reading in the stateroom. Marie reading in bed, the king-size bed, extensive artwork around the ship, part of an old log cabin in Nordic style, a singer on the ship's stage, Marie and I having fun dancing on the crowded dance floor. Further artwork included the bow of a Viking ship. Day 10 was spent in Tallinn, Estonia, a medieval city. We went on an old town walking tour to St. Mary's Cathedral, saw the medieval wall, the old town area, Parliament building, many shops, handicraft shops in a web of narrow 13th century streets, past the great guild house, the Brotherhood of the Blackheads, the Alexandria Nevsky Cathedral, panoramic view of Tallinn, the House of Brotherhoods, and beautiful window boxes. St. Petersburg, Russia on day 11 and 12 brought our first nasty weather. We saw a statue of Peter the Great, the city's founder, shown in the first slide. It was impossible to take good pictures on the canal tour due to the rain. St. Isaac's Gold Dome was an architectural gem named after Peter the Great's patron saint. Inside St. Isaac's was gorgeous, as was its dome ceiling. Other shots are from the interior and exterior of St. Isaac's. We also visited the Church of Our Savior on Spilled Blood, with photos inside and out. Nicholas I statue displayed his equestrian skills. The next day in St. Petersburg, we opted out of tours. Day 13 in Helsinki, Finland was the next stop. Marie and our guide made a fine pair for slide 1. Our bus passed Stockmann's department store, Finland's largest. We saw old-time Finnish architecture in a residential area, including new apartments and tall buildings. We visited the memorial to Sibelius and took several pictures there. He was Finland's premier composer. And we then bused to Senate Square. Parliament was in the background, along with a couple of shots of Helsinki Cathedral. We explored the marketplace and then rode the bus back to the Viking Sea. As we neared the end of our tour, we visited Stockholm, Sweden, concluded our cruise of the Viking homelands. Stockholm is built on a series of islands, extremely scenic. On our bus ride to a Viking history museum, we passed a statue of a woman and riding on a bull, plus the Stockholm Royal Theatre. At the museum, we viewed colorful replicas of Viking ships. Numerous rune stones with historic images marked their territories. There were warrior masks and rings, a miniature Viking village, a replica of a little girl whose skeleton was found. Afterwards, we visited a quaint bar in Old Town, decorated with battle shields and axes. And then we had moose pate and a glass of mead. Thanks for watching, and we'll get a final look at the Viking sky sailing off